No idea if this is working. Oh, got a notification that I'm live. So something is happening. Yeah. What is that shit? Get started. We are live. It says we're live. What is that shit? Well, I can't see my feed, but I'm apparently live on YouTube, so I don't need to see my feed. If you guys can see me, feel free to comment down below. If you can't see me, trust me. What is it? 9:12. I've had nothing. So don't download. Apparently, do not download if you're a Mac user. And I don't want to start a debate between Macs and PCs right now, quite frankly. But with the new Catalina update, the fucking Catalina wine mixer completely ruined my OBS application. And now, without getting into too much details, it is very difficult for me, obviously, to get anything working properly. So you can hear me. I got a you can hear me. Can you see me? Do my lips line up at all with what I'm saying? You're live sound wise, but video is super laggy. I don't know how to fix that. This seems to be working though. Apparently I need to upgrade my stuff. Video frozen. Wonderful. Add media. No idea. No idea. All right. So how do I change my bitrate? Oh, the joys of technology. More info. We can hear you though. Yeah, we'll turn this into true podcast form. You will not get any video. You will just simply hear me talking. I don't even know if any of these. Let's try this button. I'm just gonna keep clicking buttons until something happens. There's got to be a way to change the bitrate through this OBS. Audio only, watermark, lower third overlay, full screen overlay, live feed. Well, we'll do audio only. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. If you, I almost have to log in. I feel like logging into this video, my YouTube video that's streaming, just to see if you see that stupid watermark, but it's just frozen. I talk without my lips moving. We'll do audio only. Thank you guys for tuning in, all 9 of you, and 3 likes. This video will obviously not. Oh, you can see me now. Perfect. All right, even better. That's a lot of fun. So, how's everybody doing? What a day to be a Packer fan, especially for those of you that had to go to work today. Regardless of whether you work with Packer fans, Viking fans, Bears fans, or yes, even Lions fans, which thankfully I don't work with any of those. But man, it has been one hell of a day of conversation around the league, around the NFL. They're not talking about how great the Packers look. No, they're talking about essentially the controversy that came from last week's game. So let me see if I keep this window open, if it keeps the video up for you guys. So I'm wondering if I have to keep my browser window that is kind of being all finicky for this feed to come through. So, Big B, yeah, you were at the game. I imagine that was something of a little bit of a roller coaster. I know exactly how the energy can get sucked out of those places when you're down 13-0, but hey, Aaron Rodgers is apparently 5-4. He's like a 55% winning percentage when trailing 13-0 at home. Completely came back. Obviously beat the Lions. I'm really interested. I mean, I could. There's a lot of topics that I could definitely dive into. Obviously, the main one's going to be the refereeing side of things, which we'll get into. Maybe I'll wait till a couple more people get into this feed, just because I don't want to repeat myself over and over. But I want to talk about a few things, right? So let's start with Kevin King. I want to start with Kevin King because after all the rest of the chaos of the game, when you're talking about wide receivers going out, when you're talking about Aaron Jones not being as dominant as we thought he would be, and Jamal Williams taking over, you can talk about Allen Lazard having a great game, but Kevin King has not consistently put together week after week after week solid performances, and I just don't know what we have at cornerback out of Kevin King, and it's really kind of frustrating because Josh Jackson hasn't stepped up to the plate as far as a role on that defense in the cornerback group. You have Darnell Savage who's out, so hopefully he can come back. But that secondary becomes a little bit more suspect if Kevin King has any sort of issues. Now, Tramon Williams had, a good, I guess, deflection of a play, but he's not he's 7 years old, 38. I'm just looking at his jersey number at this point, but he's older, so he's not going to be the young buck that goes out there and makes plays constantly. So I really want to see if Kevin King can't turn this season around, even if he stays healthy. And like I said, all throughout OTAs, you just got to stay healthy. If he can't stay healthy, I think the Packers are definitely going to have to go back to an early draft pick and take another cornerback because Jalen Ramsey is now out there in LA with the Rams. That probably would have been our one shot at picking up someone to really boost that secondary. And Kevin King's just continued disappointment. Now, maybe he had a bad night. I don't think that's the case, though. I think he was I was at the Eagles game. I felt like Kevin King was getting kind of abused to a point. Now, he might have had, came away with an interception. But then you look at that Dallas game, I think, maybe he held up his own. He completely raped the Dallas receiver and got that interception. I don't really know. Kevin King just doesn't seem like he's going to be that guy that we're going to have long term. I think he rides out his rookie contract. I'd be surprised if Green Bay signs him again. But that's essentially where I want to start. The next place that we should probably go, of course, is talking about officiating. Now, what's there to say? I mean, my thought process on this is once Sunday rolls around, once Thursday night rolls around, there's going to be another call. There's going to be another controversy as far as a blown call or a terrible call that shouldn't have been, whether it's roughing the passer, which thankfully hasn't reared its ugly head like it did last season, or if it's pass interference or lack of pass interference. This is a reoccurring thing going on throughout the entire NFL. I think the NFL does have a problem on their hands when it comes to this whole how they want to handle reviews and challenges and whether they should slow down the game as much as they do. I think the option to keep 2 challenges with the possible third is great, especially when we implemented the idea of pass interference, because quite frankly, you only have so many challenges. You can use them how you want to. But I didn't have a whole lot of time to watch talk radio today or NFL news. And I just know that there was a lot of talk about the officiating. The Packers did not, I'm going to probably piss a lot of you guys off, but Packers did not deserve to win that game last night. They didn't play very well. Aaron Rodgers played very well. Jamal Williams played very well. Lazard came in the fourth quarter and played a great game. But outside of those guys, I mean, the Smiths each had a sack. The team didn't look good throughout the entire game, and it just, things weren't going right. If it had that feeling, just like I had said in my Final Thoughts video on Friday of, you muff a punt early on last year in week 5, and just Mason Crosby was missing field goals. Things just weren't going right last year against Detroit in that week 5 matchup. And a lot of the same things were starting to happen with Green Bay. Aaron Jones misses a wide open catch for a touchdown. A little bit before that, though, they finally get some momentum on their second possession of the game. He fumbles the ball. That doesn't go right. You look at the muff punt. You look at the pass off of Shepard's helmet. You look at how the referees impacted the game. Now, there are mistakes by the Lions, because when you talk about the Packers being down 0-13, they have a chance to kick a field goal late in the game. There's 12 men on the field. Now the Packers get another chance, and they are able to put it in the end zone. It's just, there were gifts and mental mistakes by Detroit that resulted in gifts for Green Bay, which that's just how football plays out. I get that. That's not necessarily the referees making any issue of it. But holy moly, when it comes to I don't think that was pass interference, quite frankly. I think you can make an argument for it, but the late in the game when the Packers hit the Detroit receiver across the chest, I don't think that was pass interference. I think that is just, you let these guys play, and that's just something that you see and day in, day out. But the holding of the collar, yes, I've seen the photos. I'm not naive. I know the ones that's out there showing. Sure, he grabbed some face masks. I think one of them definitely was a illegal hands to face. The other one, The other one might not have been, but yeah, you come away, you're 5-1 as a Packer fan. Awesome. I love to be 5-1. I like to be 3-0 in the division. I like to be right there on pace with the New Orleans Saints. I like to be right there with the San Francisco 49ers. And the Seahawks are all 5-1 there. You have to love that aspect of it, but you came away from the game kind of feeling a little bit dirty. That's kind of how I take it, at least. I mean, it was awesome to get the win, but I didn't feel like we earned that victory. Now, Rodgers did magical things in the fourth quarter, but you got to put a full game together, and it didn't seem like the defense was really putting up a whole lot of pressure. They got destroyed that first quarter and a little bit in the second quarter. It wasn't a dominant performance by any means. It wasn't a team that looks like a Super Bowl caliber team, but hey, it's 1 week, it's one game. It's nothing I'm going to definitely blow up proportion. They had a crappy game. They won a division game. They come away with a victory. And you have to be excited about that, regardless of where you sit on it. And I can see it both ways. I mean, I know I need to pick a stance, and my stance, quite frankly, is that the Packers shouldn't have won it, that the refs definitely helped play a role in Packers securing themselves a victory. But I can see both arguments of it. We've had terrible calls blown against us. There's going to be more terrible calls this weekend throughout the rest of the season. I don't know what the NFL does to clean it up. I don't think making any more plays reviewable is the answer to it, but definitely a conversation that is going to be taking place. Like I said, I'm just glad we are not talking about roughing the passers penalties against Clay Matthews, because that was one hell of a headache last week. Or last year, that I'm just glad we're not going back to. So let's go through some of these comments here. Obviously, I love to involve you guys in this, ask some questions. I'm sure you guys have provided some feedback. I've been primarily talking to the camera right now, but let's talk about some of the feedback here, what you guys are thinking out there. So outside of my webcam difficulties, which, my God, I hope it's working. It looks like it is working. Let's see here. We need Jackson to fill in for Savage. I don't know if Jackson's going to be... Jackson should have been trade equity at some point, or that was kind of the rumor back a couple weeks ago when Jalen Ramsey was on the market, that you could possibly give up a Josh Jackson, maybe a first-round draft pick. Obviously, that's not an option anymore. I'm not really sure. It's amazing. You don't see Jackson on the field a whole lot. I don't really hear his name come up throughout the week when it comes to practices. He's really kind of fallen to the wayside, and I don't know if it's just because they don't have a role for him, with Tramon Williams being on that defense. I don't know if the other defenders have stood up. I don't think that Jackson should fill in at safety. I don't think he's capable of playing safety. So it's a thought, but I just don't see how Jackson can possibly fill in at that safety position. King has done so well, and then again so poorly. I know he's a love-hate player. He has the abilities, he has the height, he has the speed. I think if Jair Alexander is not on that football team, Kevin King really falls below the standard of what you want out of a cornerback. But there's something about that number 23 who goes out there. He's got all the swagger. Now, he can get burned occasionally as well, but he's a guy that has so much confidence, that wants to be great, that practices hard, that has that swagger, like I already said. And I think if Alexander's not on that football team, I am almost certain that King just crumbles at that number one cornerback position. But yeah, I mean, there's things that you got to love about him. He has to get more consistent. Maybe we'll chalk this up as his hamstring still bothering him. Maybe we'll chalk it up as a bad game. But I haven't seen consistent play out of Kevin King. Did Gmo get hit by a shoulder or a helmet? Well, there's a call, right? So this is another one of those refereeing things. So if I was a Detroit Lions fan, I'm probably pretty upset with the call on that one. Now, yes, it is helmet to helmet. Not blatantly, but if you watch the review, he goes for that catch. Defender comes in there. He's trying to make a play on the ball. Gets hit helmet to helmet on it. He goes out. Gmo goes out of the game. That shouldn't have probably been a penalty, and it's probably something that if that became a reviewable play at that point could be challenged and not a penalty. But regardless, I think these guys are full-blown athletes that play fast. This goes hand in hand with the roughing the passer too, right? These guys need to go full speed, and then you're asking them to stop on a dime. And if you look at that perspective from a pass rusher going at a quarterback, and you look at this from a defensive back trying to cover a wide receiver, I don't think there's anything malicious about it whatsoever. I don't think it was a dirty play. I don't think that he definitely shouldn't get fined. I would be absolutely shocked if the NFL decides to fine the Detroit Lions for that hit. But it's just a what happens. I mean, it's football. Flag was thrown. We got ourselves another first down. Gmo actually, luckily, was able to walk off the field and not get off on a stretcher like some of our past primetime football games. But yeah, I mean, that's one of those 50-50 calls if you're an NFL or if you're a referee. What a tough job. I would never want to be a referee in the NFL. I think there are far too many other jobs out there that I would much rather do. Let's see here. Who expected the Packers to go 5-1? Fuck yeah. I did not. I mean, I have picked the Packers every week so far, so I'm 5 for 6 on my picks, which is just great luck, quite frankly. But yeah, you couldn't ask for you could ask for a little bit better start if they would have decided to run the ball or Adams doesn't get hurt. I think we're a 6-0 team. It's really frustrating to see the Eagles get just demolished as much as they did against the Vikings. And for us not to be able to beat the Eagles. I mean, even the Detroit Lions were able to beat the Eagles. But yeah, 5-1. You have to be excited about that. You have to love that aspect of it. I know I am. I am looking forward. I'm not looking. Well, I'm looking past this this Raiders game on Sunday, and I'm really looking forward to that Sunday night matchup down in Kansas City. That's going to be a real good opportunity to see what we got. And I feel like I say that every week as far as what we got, but that's going to be primetime. That's a game that I don't think that we are going to win, but we sure as shit have every opportunity to win that game, and those are the ones that really start to show you what you have out of your football team. So Josh just hasn't had much snaps. King's injuries didn't help when he got beat. The NFL isn't about what you deserve. The Packers won. End of story. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of in the workplace, in social media, in TV media. This is a really fun discussion to have as far as whether or not you can blame the refs. But I mean, I've blamed the refs for the Fail Mary. I've blamed the refs for Aaron Rodgers getting a face mask back in 2009 playoffs against the Cardinals. I've blamed the refs all sorts of times. I mean, they impact the game. Referees definitely have an impact on football games. Just ask the New Orleans Saints last year. The refs have an impact. A win's a win, but you don't want to see those things really affect the game as drastically as they can and as they did last night. So many ex-Packers in the XFL. I'm not even talking about the XFL draft. There are, D'Angelo Yancey, I believe, is in the XFL. I'm sure there's a bunch of other ones. I do like Roger's comment. These calls even out over the years. It's very true. Yeah, I shaved my beard. He went to the Vikings logo to a naked mole rat. Yeah, appreciate that. So I want to talk about, since there's not a whole lot of comments coming in right now, I want to talk about our wide receivers, right? So all the way up to this point, I was of the firm opinion that we have talent at wide receiver, and I still think that we do have talent in wide receiver. Now, I'm not entirely sure if how I see the depth on that Packers wide receiver list is the same as how Matt LaFleur and the rest of that team sees the depth on that wide receiving list. But one thing became absolutely evident last night watching the game is that a number one receiving role is completely different from a number two, a number three, or any sort of supplemental receiver on that lineup. And we are obviously dying or struggling to find a number one receiver that we can kind of count on. Now, very early in that game, the first half of that game, Allison was that number one wide receiver. He was that number one option for Rodgers. Rodgers went to Allison a bunch of times throughout the game, and Allison had an awful performance. He was dropping balls left and right. He was holding on various plays that were bringing back runs. And that's something that, if last year Davante Adams goes out of the football game, you could look at a Randall Cobb as stepping up as a number one wide receiver. And before that, you had Jordy Nelson, who you could look at Davante Adams to step up as a number one wide receiver. The Packers have not figured out yet who that true next man up is on that wide receiving depth chart. Now, you could make an argument for Allison. I think that's what the Packers are obviously looking at. You could make an argument for MVS, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, but he hasn't necessarily been able to jump off the charts. And then you look at the rest of that wide receiving core. Now, as much as I love Kumaro, he's definitely not going to be on that list. And as much as I kind of appreciated Shepard, who had one of the worst performances that you could ask for out of a wide receiver. He definitely isn't going to be there. And then you look at your man, Lazard, who came out of nowhere, shows that confidence, has that swagger, and it's really going to be easy to overreact on this Tuesday night of what we have out of Lazard. But hopefully, with his performance last night against the Lions and the confidence that Rodgers bestowed on Lazard, the confidence that Lazard showed that he has, just talking to Rodgers. I mean, Rodgers went over the sideline, said, put number 13 in. Lazard goes into the huddle and says, get me the ball because I'm going to catch it. And the rest is history. They essentially ran the same play back-to-back along the left sideline of the field, where first Lazard went up to grab it, just kind of came down the Detroit Lions helmet, lost possession of it. The very next play, he throws another 45-yard dime into the end zone. Lazard comes down with it, and from that point forward, Lazard did not drop a ball. And the one thing that I love most about Lazard being in there and catching those passes is he had like a little 10-12 yard pass where he caught it in bounds. He turned, instead of running out of bounds, he turned in the field, and he matched up, he evened up, he leveled up with his defender, and he wanted to hit that guy. He wanted to go at him, he wanted to be aggressive, he wanted to put the other guy on notice that, hey, if you want to take me down, you're going to have to tackle me. And that just shows so much out of the wide receiver that we were not seeing out of anybody else in the field last night. So I really hope that Lazard gets more opportunities. I would be just dumbfounded if he doesn't get more opportunities. How he is below the depth chart, or the last guy on the depth chart in that wide receiving group, is absolutely beyond me, because yes, Shepard is kind of there as that kick return, punt return guy, which goes into a whole other topic as far as kick return guy. But it just seems like a 6'5", 240-some pound wide receiver is going to be the best option for you, and it's going to be really fun to see how this plays out. Rodgers obviously is kind of backing him. I love the fact that, like I said, he went over the sideline and said put 13 in, because the rest of these guys on the field are not getting anything done. And I was right there. I mean, I was right there before they even went to Lazard, saying put the guy in. The rest of these guys just aren't doing anything, quite frankly. So some more comments rolling in throughout this. What else we got out there? Smith Bros are on track to have 15-plus sacks each. That would be phenomenal. Those guys have just been a game changer for that entire Packers team. Now, the biggest thing when you want to implement these guys on the edge is that you have to shut down the run, and I think Green Bay did an absolute great job shutting down the run against the Lions. I think Kerryon Johnson really never got himself into any sort of momentum on that running game. And quite frankly, he was, in my opinion, when I talk about calls in the game, in my opinion, I don't think that Kerryon Johnson got into the end zone on that fourth down attempt at the goal line. But what are you going to do about it, right? So we didn't give up any really huge runs. If I don't have the stat sheet in front of me, but if my memory serves me correctly, Kerryon did not have a 15, 20-yard run. I think he maybe had like a 12-yard, or 13 was probably the highest or the longest run of the game. But they did a really good job of shutting him down. And by shutting down that run game, you were then forcing Matthew Stafford to pass the ball. That allows both Za'Darius and Preston Smith to come off on the edges. And when those guys have that opportunity to go at them, they definitely can take advantage of those situations 100% of the time. And I have to still say, too, while we're on the topic of just Matthew Stafford and that offense, I love they had two great game plans going into that game last night that took the Packers by surprise, right? So they won the coin flip. They wanted the football right away. They called a flea flicker. They knew, coming off of their bye week, they knew that was the one play how they wanted to start the game, to throw the Packers defense off guard. It completely worked, so you have to give credit where credit is due. The second thing that I absolutely love that Detroit was doing, and this is not a Detroit podcast, but you have to give credit where credit is due, is their mindset of rushing to the line on third down. Almost every single time it was a third down opportunity, they were going to like a no huddle, go to the line of scrimmage, and they were catching the Packers defense off sides or off guard so many times. And I think that was just a great strategy for Detroit to implement, because it wasn't anything that they were showing on film in the previous 4 games. And it was truly, I mean, the Packers did have to use a timeout at one point, and it was really something just kind of fascinating to see that was something that Matt Patricia had implemented into his game plan. So yeah, that's how that goes. So what else we got out here for comments? Because some of these are getting, I'm kind of browsing through some of these, and you guys are just being just lovely assholes. Just as far as my facial hair, my lack of facial. I had a baby. I wanted to shave it. So no, let's see here. Rodgers had to ask to put Lazard in. Yeah, Rodgers did have to ask to put Lazard in, which is it is what it is, right? Let's cut Darius Shepard. Now, I don't think that's the answer. I was wondering if this question would come up throughout this, I guess, recording, but I don't think you need to cut Darius Shepard. The guy had a bad game. You're going to have bad games in the NFL. Now, if he continues to have more bad games, then yeah, that's something that you have to maybe plan for or figure out a solution to. But you had a guy by the name of Jamon Moore last year who struggled with catching the ball and was dropping the ball. You just didn't play him a whole lot. He was kind of your last option if you needed a wide receiver. I think Shepard needs to go down on the depth chart, but I don't think you need to cut him. I don't think you need to get rid of him. We only have 5 wide receivers because they traded away Trevor Davis, and then you're going to have to dig into that practice squad, and I'm not really sure there's a whole lot to pull from that practice squad. Packers, quite frankly, just need to figure out how to get Adams back. And they really need to figure out what the hell they're doing with Jimmy Graham, because it's just whatever they're doing right now is not working whatsoever. It's working for Mercedes Lewis. He knows his role on that Packers offense, but Jimmy Graham's just struggling, and it's really disappointing. Really disappointing. Let's see here. We only have 4 healthy receivers on the roster. I mentioned that. Do I wash my hair? I absolutely do. I wash it like every day. I go to work. I work in retail, selling cars, slinging car deals. Of course I wash my hair every day. Your thoughts on Crosby's Lambeau leap? Hey, sometimes you get by with a little help from your friends, and that's exactly... I mean, have you guys... if you're asking that question, Nick, and have you been to Lambeau Field, but those walls are a lot higher than they look, and it's amazing that... Aaron Rodgers can get up and do a Lambeau leap, let alone Mason Crosby. He's got those old bones, that kicking leg. He can't put too much pressure on that kicking leg. I love that he got some help out there. It's a lot of fun, obviously a fun way to end the game. But hey, whether or not he needed assistance or not, it's just like the referees. A Lambeau leap is a Lambeau leap, and that's what he managed to accomplish. Packers don't really have a solid number 2. Lazard is just another EQ. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think Lazard is the answer to step up as a number 1 wide receiver, but it is what it is. Jordy is still out there. Wouldn't that be something? He's not coming back. I've completely closed the door on that one once they had a retirement ceremony for him, but that would be fun. It would be about that time to give him a call. Roger said he just has to give him a call. The draft is going to be loaded with wide receiving talent. That's good news to hear. I hardly follow college football. So hopefully there is a ton of wide receiving talent, because we could use at least 1 wide receiver and then possibly another cornerback if Kevin King does not step up to the fold. What do you make of... Whoa, I had a question there. What do you make of them targeting King? Have you seen any faults in his game? I have seen faults in Kevin King's game. Kevin King struggles quite frequently throughout these matchups, and it seems to be on anything that goes deep against him. So if he's within the 5-yard line, he's definitely trying to get active. He's pretty aggressive. He could get called for pass interference or holding, stuff like that. Now, they haven't been calling it, but when it comes to any of those deep balls against Kevin King, it's been absolutely trouble for him. It doesn't seem like he's either turning around fast enough or figuring out where the ball is or deciding what he wants to do. But he's got the height advantage to it. So if he can, figure out where he's supposed to be and do what he has to do, I mean, he should be picking off more interceptions. But yeah, they obviously had a goal to go after King. I think if you look at him and Alexander, you'd look at King as the lesser talented. And the one frustrating thing was, and I was talking about last night at our viewing party, is why didn't Jair Alexander switch over to Galladay at some point throughout that game? Because Galladay was just constantly going off on Kevin King, and maybe a change in scenery would have done Kevin King some good to maybe get some of that confidence back, because he just was not sticking with it with Galladay at all throughout the game. What else we got here? No, don't draft for a wide receiver. Just keep drafting 5th and 6th rounders. James Jones wasn't retired. Yeah, James Jones would probably love to come back to Green Bay. Hoodie and all. Congrats on the baby, a baby face for the new baby. Appreciate it, guys. What are you drinking tonight? Oh, you want to talk about this? So, all right. So, Samuel Adams Oktoberfest. A lot of discussion in my final thoughts videos in the comment section. I had 2 really huge topics in Friday's video. First one, why am I drinking Samuel Adams? I'm from Wisconsin. I should be drinking Spotted Cow. I should be drinking Liney's. Guys, free beer is free beer. So you drink free beer. That's what I did. I'm not going to complain about what I'm drinking. I'm not just going to throw it out the window. It's Oktoberfest. It's October, the month of October. So yeah, don't get yourself in a frenzy about this. It's not my favorite beer by any means, but I'll drink it. Don't let it go to waste. I'm not going to drink it in February when it's February Fest. By no means that. Second thing, a lot of Lions fans came out in droves in my comments. So I think I'm at 70 comments as of, heading into this recording as of right now. 45, 50 of them, probably 55 of them are all Detroit Lions fans talking smack. That's not cool. I mean, I'm all for having an open mindset and conversation around these football games. But man, the Lions fans, truly, they came out in droves. I have over 3,000 views on that video. It's easily my highest viewed video so far in this very young YouTube channel. But it must be something about these division rivals. I think the Broncos one did surprisingly well. I think one thing I find with this is you can really find out, who some of these fans are and what kind of demographic you get from your various football fans. But you guys got to be out there. You guys have to be, if you want to chime in and talk trash to the Raiders fans if they show up in my next week's video. But man, I was just getting bombarded. I was getting notifications throughout the day constantly, and there were just these Lions fans just talking. And now they're not saying anything. I'm surprised they're not saying anything. You'd think there would be at least one comment that says the refs suck or something along those lines, but it's been radio silent. It's been completely dead. Nobody's saying a damn thing. So let's move on. Dean Lowry was a run-stuffing machine. That one's from Nick. Yeah, Dean Lowry had an incredible game, and this was really a lot of fun to see. He has not, he hasn't really played well throughout the early stretches so far this season. I think we had a little bit of a conversation, I think 3 weeks ago, about Dean Lowry and how the Packers could get out of his contract fairly early or very easily without costing him a whole lot of money if he doesn't step up to bat. But Dean Lowry had an incredible game. It seemed like very early on in that game, in the first half specifically of that game, he was right there. He was part of that run-stopping defense, which I'd love to see him step up in that role because I figured it would come from Oren Burks or Montravius Adams, but Dean Lowry was kind of that unknown force that definitely played a role. And yeah, Dean had a great outing. He was all over the place, quite frankly. Didn't hear his name a whole lot in the second half or late in the game, but definitely he made a leap, if you will, and had himself a really good outing out there against the Lions. Let's see what else we got here. Smith was cut to make room for Evan Bayless. Oh, that's what happened to Smith. Thank you. See, I had a baby. There were transactions that obviously went down. So Tremon Smith, that kick returner that was supposed to be doing wondrous things for us, he got cut for a tight end because we don't have enough tight ends. Obviously, we need more tight ends because we're going to pass the ball to our tight ends. Maybe we'll pass the ball to our tight ends. Well, we don't have any wide receivers. You better pass the ball to our tight ends. All right, who's the better running back? I'm partial to Jamal. Overall, a stronger runner. Why does there have to be a better running back? I love that we have these two guys that have completely different running styles that both are able to pick up yards. Now, again, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I think what I heard was Jamal averaged somewhere around 5.5 yards per game. I think even Aaron Jones, with the poor performance or the lack of reps that he had, was picking up somewhere around 4.4 yards per carry. And now my furnace kicked on, and that needs to shut off. So I'm going to call my wife and see if she can do that. Because that's probably really loud. It's really loud for me, at least. You guys, hang tight. It's a drink break. If you got a drink, take a drink break. Can you turn off the furnace, please?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. So that's taken care of. So, what were we talking about? Yeah, Smith was cut, missed all that stuff. We're talking about running backs. So, yeah, I mean, if I had to pick a running back that I would think is better, I still think it's Aaron Jones. I think Aaron Jones is the quicker, slashier weapon in an outside zone offense that you have from Matt LaFleur. But I think they're both very solid options. If you're looking at just a running back skill, Jamal Williams is that guy that you can give the ball to. He will run it up the gut, pick up some hard-fought yards, and he had a great game. I think if Aaron Jones catches that touchdown for 30-some yards that just bounced off of his fingers, you would be happy with what each of these guys do, because Jamal Williams is not going to go down and get open for 40 yards for a touchdown. It's just not in the way he's built and how he's designed. Take these guys, use their strengths, and do what you can do with them. And yet, I love both these guys. I'm very happy that we have both. We have a kind of a two-headed running back monster in our backfield. And if you're a fantasy owner, it's really tough because either one of these guys, they're probably going to go back and forth here for quite a bit on which one has the more successful game and which one has the bigger role. But that's a good problem as a Packers team to have in the backfield. What else we got out there? Oktoberfest is good. We got a bunch of Skull Faces and February Fest. They're only good beer. Do you think it's possible the Packers call up Jamon Moore and see if we can give him that 100th chance? I feel like he's just better than, say, Kumaro. Well, there's a hot take for you. I don't think that the Packers touch Jamon Moore with a 100-yard stick. I think you gotta give up on him. He's had too many chances. Too many chances. We drafted him high last year, higher than we should have obviously drafted him last year. He didn't play a role at all last season. You figure he's going to come into his second season, OTAs, spring training, have performances. He continued to drop the ball. He continued to make mistakes. I don't think the Packers should waste any time with Jamon Moore. I think you have better luck developing and working on Darius Shepard. Like I said, move him down the depth chart, bring Lazard up, probably ahead of Kumaro even. I don't know why you wouldn't. Just don't bring back Jamon Moore. It's not the answer for that wide receiving group whatsoever. Lions fans have proven they are babies now, at least in my comments. I think the safety was supposed to support King over the top and broke coverage. You are right. I mean, on that first play, flea flicker play, Chandon Sullivan did get just bamboozled with that flea flicker. And who knows, if Darnell Savage is in the game, if he's healthy, does he fall for that as well, or does he stick to his role and stick to his assignment and cover that deep opening flea flicker, prevent it from happening, quite frankly? So these are things that you have to really count on your depth at that position. You have to count on some of these other guys to step up. Who knows? It could definitely change the entire tone of that game if that flea flicker play did not happen. But I think I've said flea flicker too many times. It just doesn't roll off the tongue very easily or through the lips. Not too loud. It's not too loud. Well, it's off now. I've turned off the furnace. We're past it. We're past it. We'll bite on the flea flicker now. Yeah, and I'm reading a flea flicker comment. Kevin King is also still fighting through his injury. I saw him clenching his quad hamstring multiple times, I believe. Seemed a bit slow. Felt it was a true Warrior performance for him to be injured. That's all fine and dandy. I'm sick of him being hurt. He's got to stay healthy. I mean, it's okay now that he's on his rookie contract, but if you're going to talk about someone that you're going to want to sign, and these guys are not going cheap, and cornerback's a valuable position, so you got to have someone there to cover, but you're not going to want to pay Kevin King somewhere in the realm of $8, $9, $10 million a year if he's going to be still struggling with hamstring injuries throughout his very young career. So I think I'm not giving up on him. He had a bad game. I'm going to completely be okay with that. He had a bad game. Shepard had a bad game. Aaron Jones had a bad game. It happens. But he just has to put together a string of strong performances. Otherwise, I don't find myself supporting him too much longer on that Packers defense. Were they kicking all the kickoffs short to take advantage of our weakness at special teams and returning? Yeah, they absolutely were. And you noticed that. I noticed that too. About right around halftime, at the end of the second half, or excuse me, at the end of the first half or beginning of the third quarter. Packers, we got a whole new special teams coordinator this year. I mean, we got a whole new coaching staff, but Sean Manega comes in and is supposed to fix that Ron Zook awful special teams, and this special teams looks almost disastrous compared to what I almost wish that Ron Zook would come back, because I am not loving what we have at special teams. Again, stats not in front of me. These are things that I like to dive into when I do my Friday videos, but we have to have one of the bottom of the barrel special teams units in the league. And it goes both ways. It's not even the fact that on the returning end of it that we're just not getting a whole lot of yards. And if you were anything like me watching that game last night, you were nervous when Detroit chose to kick those balls short, because you just knew that all they'd have to do is get another strip ball or something, and the entire game would just be completely lost and blown out of proportion, and there'd be no coming back at that point. So the offensive side of the return game is definitely struggling. And then you look at the defensive side, and Mason just needs to keep kicking those balls out of the end zone and prevent any opportunity for defenses to get a return, because heading into the Dallas Cowboy game, the Packers had given up 3 kick returns that were taken out of the end zone, and 2 of them went for 60 yards or more. There was a 60-yard return, there was a 67-yard return, and I am not confident whatsoever in that kick return defense stopping anybody. So it was another great strategy by Detroit. They obviously did their homework, they did their studying, they came prepared to go to battle on Green Bay or at Green Bay on Monday night. And you mix in that flea flicker, you mix in the third downs where they're rushing the line. You look at the strategy that they had of kicking their kickoff short. They had a lot of good techniques that they were sticking to. It was. And the other thing that they were doing is they're keeping Aaron Rodgers in the box. If you looked at that, if you watched the game, which I haven't, but just looking at the highlights and looking at some of those key plays, they didn't give up the edges whatsoever. Rodgers was never able to kind of roll around and scramble for an extended amount of yardage. If he did gain any sort of yards, and I think he only picked up 1 first down on his feet, it was coming through the middle of that line. It wasn't kind of swinging through by any means. So they had a really good strategy just to kind of keep him in that pocket and get pressure from the sides and from the up the middle. Yes, it gives up a little bit more time for Rodgers to make plays, but you have a banged up wide receiving group that can't get open. I think Detroit did all the right things, which is, I hate that I'm talking so great about them, but you have to respect what some of these teams are able to do. You have to respect what they were able to do, and they still lost. They're still 2-2-1. So, I mean, if they would have won the game, I probably wouldn't be so optimistic or supporting of the Detroit Lions by any means. I'd rather have Jeff Janis over Moore. Yeah, Jeff Janis. There's a name for you. We just don't have great special teams players, and that adds the depth. I mean, the special teams is comprised of your 4th, 5th, 6th string defensive backs, wide receivers, linebackers. It's not your starters by any means. So that if our special teams doesn't have good players, then you have to argue that the depth on our team is not very good. I think a lot of it has to go down to coaching. I think these guys just have to run down the field, stay on their assignments, stick to their gaps, get through blocks, make a tackle. It sounds a lot easier than it actually is, but a lot of it has to be coaching. It plays more into coaching than anything else, and these guys should be fresh legs and everything because they're not getting a whole lot of playing time. Any thoughts? Why did we release Smith as a punt returner then? Well, this is breaking news to me. I don't know. Like, I just found out that Smith was released about 10 minutes ago, so I'll have to dive into that. I mean, obviously Kansas City let him go. He had great statistics last season as a kick returner. He was one of the top 5 kick returners in the league, but maybe they obviously just didn't see something, or they felt a bigger role to get Evan Bayless on the roster. There's a lot of various factors. Maybe they liked what they had out of Shepard. They should definitely not have ever let go of Trevor Davis, though, if there was an inkling of a suspicion that they were going to get rid of Traymon Williams at some point down the road. So I wish we had Davis back. Davis would have been a big help last night with their banged-up wide receiving group. What do I think about Allen Lazard? I'm going to take about 2 or 3 more questions because the concurrent viewers is slowly dying down. It's been about 50 minutes. So I love Allen Lazard. I had a tweet out there. You guys have to follow me on my Twitter. It is, let me type it in here. The screen's going to go, pour another pack. So, yeah, it's pour another pack. At pour another pack. You guys have to follow me on my Twitter because, not because for any particular reason, but I was lobbying way before Rodgers went over the sideline and asked Lazard to come in to get him in the game. I just felt like Allison, who went out, just wasn't doing anything that you wanted him to do. I didn't want him to get the ball thrown to him. I think MVS got banged up and hurt, and he wasn't someone that I felt completely confident in, which is surprising because I like both these guys. Krumer never really emerged as anything for a wide receiver last night. Shepard was obviously making mistakes left and right. Shepard should have been pulled from the game early in the 4th quarter when he had that intercept, or I guess midway through the 4th quarter. Once he had that interception bounce off his helmet, they should have took Shepard out of the game 100%. That isn't he wouldn't have done anything. There's no bouncing back. You're a rookie player. You're on Monday Night Football. You have a muffed punt. You have an interception go off your helmet. Get him out of the game. Get him out of the field. So you have that with Shepard. I just felt like Lazard had showed so many great things throughout training camp, throughout his preseason games. I think he scored a touchdown in every one of his preseason games. I'm really high on Lazard. I'm a big fan of him. He's got obviously a lot of growing to do. He's young. He's an undrafted free agent. He went through the entire draft. He went under the radar, which isn't a bad thing.